أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. We seek refuge in God from Satan. Yes, we did. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Tonight, Friday the 19th, 1409. And we're starting at where?
Chapter 71, page 570.
Oh, Surah 71. From the beginning of Surah 71. And our teacher tonight is Afa May Bashar. So we're going to put all the microphones by her to make her nervous. And wish her luck. Okay.
Surah 71, Noah. He said Noah to his people, "You shall warn your people before a painful retribution afflicts them." He said, "O my people, I am a manifest warner to you, to alert you that you shall worship God, reverence Him, and obey me. He will then forgive you your sins and respite you for a predetermined period. Most assuredly, God's appointment will never be delayed once it is due, if you only knew." He said, "My Lord, I have invited my people night and day, but my invitation only increased their aversion. Whenever I invited them to be forgiven by you, they placed their fingers in their ears, covered themselves with their clothes, insisted, and turned arrogant. Then I invited them publicly. Then I proclaimed to them loudly, and I spoke to them privately. I said, implore your Lord for forgiveness. He is forgiving." Should I go ahead and read the whole thing?
You're the boss.
"He will then shower you generously with rain, and provide you with money and children, and orchards and streams. Why should you not strive to reverence God? He is the one who created you in stages. Do you not realize that God created 7 universes in layers? He designed the moon therein to be a light, and placed the sun to be a lamp. And God germinated you from the earth like plants. Then He returns you into it, and He will surely bring you out. God made the earth habitable for you, that you may build roads therein." Noah said, "My Lord, they disobeyed me, and followed those who were even more corrupted when blessed with money and children. They schemed terrible schemes. They said, 'Do not abandon your God. Do not abandon Wad, Suwa, Yahoo, and Nasr.' They misled many. Therefore, let the wicked plunge deeper into loss. Because of their sins, they were drowned and assigned to the hellfire. They found no helpers to protect them from God." Noah also said, "My Lord, do not leave a single disbeliever on earth. For if you let them, they will only mislead your servants and give birth to nothing but wicked disbelievers. My Lord, forgive me and my parents, and anyone who enters my home as a believer, and all the believing men and women, but do not give the disbelievers anything but annihilation."
Diction. Good. I'll start for a teaching.
I think that this surah is very clear. It basically really reminds us what's truly important and what God has given us and what God has provided for us. And a true example of the past, and an entire chapter dedicated to Noah, who lived 950 years, which we're told in one of the chapters, and it's the longest that any of the messengers lived. And he was the messenger who came after Adam, and he was with the people for a long period of time. And he was chosen by God to clearly give the message for a long time to the people. And he implored the people so much and tried to teach them and preach to them what's really important, and to basically open their eyes and tell them that this is what God has provided you. And he gives them examples from what's around them. Everything that they see, okay, for instance, what stares at them during the day, which is the sun. And God has created that like as a lamp. hurt themselves badly or die or whatever, but that person's not aware. First, you inform them when that person's with you, like miles and miles away, when you can't even see that cliff. You tell them, hey, listen, so many miles away, there's a cliff there, watch out for it. Okay? Then you just observe the person going that direction. The closer they're getting hit, because you care about that person. You don't want them to fall off. And then the closer they're getting, you shout louder and louder. And then you just want to run to them and hold them from falling off. This is clearly what I remember for khutbah. And this is what I get, this message from this surah, is that here's this man trying to shake these people. First he gives them the message and he basically tries to do his best to, carry on the message and relay it. But these people are just deaf and blind. And he tells them that God has created you in stages, and this is the most beautiful part, Ayah 17, it says, and God germinated you from the earth like plants. And this is what I find about the Quran. It's a book of laws, it's a book, it teaches us about so many things, about the past, the future, the present. Also has poetry in it, and this is what really touched me. Also, Ayah 16, which is He designed the moon therein to be a light and placed the sun to be a lamp. And God germinated you from the earth like plants. And this is so true because God created us from the pottery clay. And here's the plant that you see every day. If you have a plant, and take care of it, water it, you see how it germinates, how it just basically comes up. And new leaves that you see, it's bright, green, and then it turns dark green and it gets bigger. And this is how we are. We were a baby, we grow up, and all these beautiful children that we have here. These are all signs from God. And again, people are blind to see all these beautiful things. And God has created this earth, and He has made it habitable for us. And these roads, and we see new highways coming, new freeways, and wonderful roads that we have, always building on and on and on and on. And these are everything that we have been blessed with by God. And He clearly says, obey me and follow me, obey God and follow this message, and you will be taken care of. You will have a wonderful life. God will shower you generously with rain. What is rain? A sign of bounty. Rain comes and, all the plants grow and we have food. And the money that's provided and the children that we'll have, inshallah, and orchards and streams, all of these are beautiful. You sit by a stream and you enjoy the beauty of it, by the greenery or whatever, anywhere in the nature. So why shouldn't you, as Ayah 13 says, why shouldn't you strive to reverence God? Why shouldn't you? These are all these wonderful things that God is promising you. And these are all the facts that I'm telling you about, the moon and the sun, and how you germinate like the plants, and how you are created in stages within the womb and outside, and as we grow into adulthood. Why not do it? And again, people wouldn't listen. So finally, he gets so frustrated, and he just turns to God and says in Ayah 21, my Lord, they disobeyed me and followed those who were even more corrupted when blessed with money and children. Here we go, money and children. We see many examples of this in this society, in any society. You think that's the only thing that's important. Then you have children and they become the center of your life. And you strive so hard for them. You don't have any rest at all sometimes because you're so working night and day for your children and to money and the greed, and you just basically may forget about God. God willing, will always stay in the path that we want. So he says, God, if these people go on without any retribution, they're going to keep on being corrupted with money and children, and they will have terrible schemes, as it says in Ayah 22. And they didn't want to abandon their God. They didn't want to let go of their own idols. And God, and in the surah, in Ayah 23, it says, do not abandon God. And I don't know what other and preach to each other and trying to tell each other that, hey, don't let go of these idols. These are the ones that are important to you. And they, as it says in 24, they misled many. Therefore, let the wicked plunge deeper into loss. They'll just go deeper and deeper into what's worse for them, the worst things that can happen to them. And they will always stay in their sin. So, what's waiting for them is the hellfire. And there will be no helpers at all to protect them from God, because God's wrath is great and God's promise is great. His bounties are fantastic, and He tells us, hey, either go the way of righteousness, or you go the way of sinfulness and being a disbeliever and idol worshiping, and you will deserve hellfire. And so Noah turns to God and says, my Lord, do not leave a single disbeliever on earth. He really did his best to try to preach to these people and let them know about this good information. And what will happen if these people stay on, they will only mislead your servants and give birth to nothing but wicked disbelievers. And we are told at the mosque here how the children are assigned to particular parents, and how parents are responsible to teach the good word, what they know about God to their children and pass on the information. And to let them, to always remind them of their prayers, that they have to do their prayers on time and read their Quran. But in a family that they're disbeliever parents, what do you expect from these parents? They're not going to sit there and talk about God in front of the children. Obviously, the children are not going to be informed at all. And so what's going to happen, these idol worshippers, these disbelievers, will mislead the servants of God possibly and give birth to nothing but wicked disbelievers. The chain will just go on and on and on. And so he asked forgiveness for himself and his parents and other people who have come to his home and tried to accept, and they accepted the word, and the believing men and women. And Noah says in ayah 28, but do not give the disbelievers anything but annihilation. Basically, just put it straight. Annihilation will be awaiting them. And as we know, the flood came. Even his wife and son were the disbelievers there among the crowd. And as we learned in the other chapters, that God told him to make the ark, and you'll have a pair of the animals. And the believers all went with him, and they were saved. And that was God's promise to all his believers. And so he told his son, come on with us. And his son thought that he could be safe on top of whatever it was, top of someplace high. And he thought that he could be safe from this flood. But the flood came and destroyed everything. And Noah and the believers were all saved. So this, I think that this surah was very self-explanatory, very direct, poetic in some areas, and basically put us in touch with our creation, and how hard this messenger was truly working to inform the people of the good message.
Press this back to that.
Let's make it bigger.
Okay. Do like a
Messages, comments.
Any questions on Surah 71? Okay, I have a couple of comments, as usual. Yes. Are you concerned about this parent? Okay.
those who enter my home as a believer, so if they enter this home as a believer, we don't know if then they will.
Join. Well, if he was 950, his parents were 1,000.
They need.
They're pretty old. They're over 40. Okay, well, I think every one of you is a Noah. We've all gone through this experience. And what we learn from this surah is that the human being is a human being is a human being from the very first day, from the time of Adam. The human beings have been the same. Each one of you have gone through the same experiences that Noah went through. No matter, you can be as young as Nagma, and you can go through a lot of the same thing that Noah went through. Nagma is not 1,000 yet, but or even 700 yet. But she went through it. She was telling me about this loss. He's only one of many that she talked to. I know that. And then she told about a message from God that's mathematically coded, superhuman, definitely from God, tells us exactly how to be saved. And then he says, "Oh, this is good for you, but for me, I would like to see this and that." He did this. So his response was the same response that Noah got. And you notice in verse 7, he's saying, whenever I invited them to be forgiven by you, and for heaven's sakes, you're inviting the people to be forgiven. You're inviting them to be perfectly happy in this life and forever. You're not asking them for money, but they are, oh, I got this here for you. I cleaned this 2 days ago. This is the light fixture outside the mosque. And there are here now about 76 bugs. Some of them are pretty big, you know. You don't know how they got in there. They work so hard to go in there and burn in hell. This is what the people are doing. They work so hard to avoid heaven and to go to hell. They pay whatever price it takes to go to hell. And they work very hard for it. So God gave us this as an example. It's very difficult. On your way out, just look at it and see how they got in there. They had to work very hard to burn and go to hell. And that's what the people are doing since the time of Noah. Now, Noah was most probably the first, well, he was the first prophet, and probably the first messenger after Adam. All the people on earth were living around what the Dead Sea is now. The Dead Sea is the remnant of the Noah's flood. So this gives an idea how primitive, how early in history this was. And the human being was exactly the same. Another thing, the message, another lesson we learn is that the message has been always one and the same. You see it here in verse 3. Worship God alone. Reverence Him and obey me. So this is the message that every single messenger said. Worship God alone. Worship God alone. From day one to the end of the world. This is the only message that God is sending to us in order to be redeemed. In order to make up for our crime that we committed millions of years ago. So this is the other lesson. But the message is one and the same from that time. And then there is a scientific miracle that Alpha May didn't emphasize enough, or that we didn't notice. In 16, God says He designed the moon as a light and the sun as a lamp. There's a difference. A lamp is a source of light. But if I have a mirror here, and the mirror reflects this light, the mirror will give light. I can send light to that dark room over there, but the mirror will not be a source of light. So it's very clear in verse 16, God is telling us, and this is consistent throughout the Quran, that the sun is a source and the moon is reflective. The material of the moon is very special. This grayish material is very reflective, and this is what Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin said when they landed on the moon. They hit it with their hands, their gloves, and said it's quite reflective. It's a strange material, but God made it that way. God designed it so Abraham can see it through her curtain. And it's amazing how much light comes. It's reflected by the moon. What else? There's another significant matter in 25. We learn a very good lesson here. 25 says, because of their sins, they were drowned and assigned to the hellfire. They found no helpers to protect them from God. Now, the Arabic, I wish I could have translated it better. I like this translation. It's better than the first one, to me. But I wish I was this better, because the verse implies that they knew, which is true, people know at the time of death that they're going to heaven or hell. They know, and then after that it is either a nightmare, continuous nightmare, from which there is no awakening. In fact, the awakening is worse, because they wake up to the real hell. Or it's a beautiful dream, depending on how they redeem themselves or not. So verse 25 teaches us that the people know at the time of death. And this is throughout the Quran we learn that. The angels tell the person, the angel of death tells the person whether he or she is heading for heaven or hell at the time of death. So they know. Are there any questions on the surah? Most probably Aramaic. Aramaic is the oldest scriptural language, and it's a living language even now. I have a tape here that teaches Aramaic, and it's very close to the Arabic. It's the same alphabet, the same order as Arabic, and the words that we use here in this mosque, a lot of them are Aramaic. For example, the name of God, Allah. That was the name in Aramaic. This is the name that all the prophets and the messengers. This is a very good question, so pay attention. All the prophets used the same name for God, Allah. Noah, Job, Abraham, Moses, Jesus. The tape I have specifically is about the language of Jesus. And I have a book that goes with it. And God's name was Allah. This is what all the prophets and messengers used for the name of God, from Adam until the end of the world. The prayer was Salah. In Noah's language, Adam's language, Abraham's language, Jesus' language, and our language. There are many things in common. And I have a book here if you want to see it better, or here's the tape I just left to you. So most probably the language is Aramaic. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. In fact, this is another good question, because you do not see the order to observe Salah before Abraham. You notice here, Noah did not say, I want you to observe the Salat prayer and the Zakat charity, like Abraham. You see it only for Abraham and now. You don't see it before Abraham at all. You notice here, verse 2, he said, "O my people, I am a manifest warner to you, to alert you that you shall worship God, reverence Him, and obey me. He will then forgive you," and so on. So, throughout the Quran, Noah is always saying, just believe in God. Because the people were so primitive that believing in God would have assured them enough growth to make it to heaven. But then the duties in Islam came through Abraham. For the Jews, the Christians, and us. Yes. But he's named in the Quran as a prophet. Scripture. Adam is a prophet. He was to deliver a message, a new message. There was no existence before. he had a new message. He had new information that the people didn't have before. He delivers it to them. And he is named in the Quran as the Prophet. Only again the words? Yes. Maybe it was a Fatiha, I don't know. For all that we know, could have been a Fatiha. Because the Ibrahimi Fatiha is very close to what we read the Fatiha now, with sound and meaning. What we're told is that Adam was given words whereby he was redeemed. And I'm sure he passed on this word to his children, and grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-grandchildren, personally. They had no bacteria or viruses, those people. They had a clean world. If there are no more questions, Professor Bashar will go on to 72.
Say, I was inspired by that a group of jinns listened, then said, we have heard a wonderful Quran. It guides to righteousness, and we have believed in it. We will never set up any idols besides our Lord. The Most High is our Lord, our only Lord. He never had a mate nor a son. It is the foolish among us who used to utter such nonsense about God. We thought that neither the humans nor the jinn could possibly utter lies about God. Human beings used to seek power through jinn beings, but they only afflicted them with a lot of adversity. They thought, just like you thought, that God would not send another messenger. We touched the heaven and found it filled with formidable guards and projectiles. We used to sit there in order to spy. Anyone who listens is pursued by a powerful projectile. We have no idea if something bad is intended for the inhabitants of earth or if the Lord will to redeem them. Some of us are righteous and some are less than righteous. We follow various paths. We knew full well that we can never run away from God on earth. We can never run away and escape. When we heard the guidance, we believed therein. Anyone who believes in his Lord will never fear any injustice nor any affliction. Among us are the submitters, and among us are the compromisers. As for those who submitted, they are on the right path. As for the compromisers, they will be fuel for Jahannam. If they remain on the right path, we will bless them with abundant water. We will surely test them all. As for him who disregards the message of his Lord, we will direct him to ever-increasing retribution. The places of worship belong to God. You shall not mention besides God any other name. These jinns, this is also mentioned in some other places in the Quran where these jinns are saying, we heard this wonderful Quran. And to me, I think that these jinns are the jinns from the people who were Muslims, who were believers, and who were converted to Muslims. You know, these jinns were converted to Islam. And here they are talking about how they heard this wonderful Quran, and it's about its guidance to righteousness. And they're basically talking about everything that, for instance, the messenger will tell us, you know, how God doesn't have a mate nor a son, and how foolish some people are to utter such nonsense about God. righteousness. Also, Ayah 14 on the second page, which at the end it says right path. And Ayah 21, which we'll cover later, at the end, guide you. And Ayah 24, is it? No, it's 10. Oh yeah, redeem. So the root Rashada is mentioned here 4 times. And here, anyhow, these are these jinns talking about God and saying how ignorant these human beings were, that they gave power to jinns and they tried to go to them and get some strength.
Just make a correction. Good correction. Good one. Yeah, through magnetic forces. I'm sorry.
To go back to, I'm jumping around here. To go back to Ayah 3, it says, he never had a mate nor a son. The Most High is our Lord. He never had a mate nor a son. This is so clear. In Iran, we were in the school, we had this class of Deen, which was religion, but we only studied Islam. And we were always taught that there's only one God and he has no children. And to me, I didn't really know anything about Christianity when I was in Iran, and then I learned about it. And to hear the fact that Christians have made Jesus, so big and the Son of God, and you ask them, you're referring to Jesus as the Son of God, and then they go on talking about Christianity, and all of a sudden they say the Lord. And I said, who's the Lord? Jesus Christ. And I said, wait a minute. You were just telling me that you're saying Christ is the Son of God, and now you're saying He is God. He can either be the Son or He can be God. You cannot be, 2 things in one. And we were saying, oh, that's different. With God and Jesus is different. And you can't even compare this to a simple example of, hey, you can't be 2 people in So that was really outrageous to me, and to this date I still have discussions with Christians who practice their faith. And it just goes back to the same thing. Hey, listen, I say God has no son, no mate, nothing, and it just goes back and forth, and we never get anywhere. Because they just believe what they believe. But here's the jinn, the jinns are saying, the Most High is our Lord, our only Lord, and He never had a mate or a son. And it makes me feel so good when I read about these jinns, because, these jinns are Muslims, and I think, and so many times at the mosque here, we're taught that, inshallah, we'll turn our jinn into our words of righteousness. So that's the point for the Christians, the Ayah 3. And again, how these foolish people utter nonsense about God, and how they go to the jinn and they want strength from them, and to seek power from them. It reminds me of devil worship. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think of it like witch power, all that stuff that people do and you see on TV, all these talk shows, they concentrate on it so much for a couple of months. And it makes you aware of what's really going on. Someone that you maybe deal with every day, you don't know what their practices are. And this person from Kima College, But that is not true, and we've seen continuously messenger after messenger, prophet after prophet. So these jinns are trying to go towards heaven and peek in and see what's going on there. And there are guards there and projectiles. And they try to listen, and boom, there's a projectile coming to them. And they basically cannot get in, and it's just impossible. But you know, this makes me wonder. It says on Ayah 9, we used to sit there in order to spy. Anyone who listens is pursued by a powerful projectile. But these jinns are talking about how they enjoyed this wonderful Quran, how foolish among us were the ones who used to utter nonsense about God, and the ones that go to jinns to seek power. And here they're saying we used to sit there in order to spy. They're still not allowed, even though they accept it.
But God wants to tell us what powers they have.
They have
characteristics. And we used tools in the past. We used to. This means they can travel billions of light years. To spy means to get some information. For example, we went through a period of a year and a half to 2 years where we could not send any rockets into space. The limit was 74 seconds. In Europe, in Japan, in the United States, we went through that period. Something mysterious. They hit something. 74 seconds, including the shuttle, the space shuttle. 74, actually 76 seconds. And this is the jinn would see that, see what happened there. And something obviously came close to the Earth during that time and prevented any of our rockets from penetrating. Now the jinns could see that. So this is what spying means. They get some advanced information. They see something happening out there. I'll come back to this. I'm going to explain more when we
There's
finish.
so much information in this.
There's a lot of information here. And when you finish this section, we'll go back to the beginning. This is a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun with this surah, inshallah.
It teaches us so much because my teacher taught me a lot today. And I never realized all these things. Okay, Ayah 10. We have no idea if something bad is intended for the inhabitants of Earth, or if their Lord will to redeem them. Of course, they have no information. They don't know anything. And here they are mentioning us, the Earth, the inhabitants of Earth. And what God's plan is for us, they don't know, we don't know. And later on, we learn that not even Muhammad knows what's going to happen to us. All they do is give us the message and tell us what's awaiting us, but they don't know what's going to happen to each one of us particularly. And the jinn say some of us are righteous and some of us are less than righteous and follow various paths. I don't know, I kind of find this interesting how you sort of perceive jinns as bad guys. And here are the bad guys that are turning good. And the good group are saying some of us are righteous, some of us are less than righteous. Again, they're dividing again. You know, just division within division to me. And we're following various paths. And they are so aware, they know that they can never run away from God on earth or anywhere else. You cannot get away from God. God is there. God is with you. Everywhere you are. Through goodness of life, through adversity of life. God is always with us. And the angels that are assigned to us will always remain with us. And these jinns are very well aware of that. When we heard the guidance on Ayah 13, we believed therein. Anyone who believes in his Lord will never fear any injustice, nor any affliction. This is such a reassurance to me. Again and again, you know, we have the guidance here and we believe in it. And what a wonderful feeling it is. And I can feel what these jinns are saying. Their spirit, you know, how wonderful they feel. You know, they're so happy about what's happened to them, and they are so glad about it. And they're saying anyone who believes in the Lord will never fear any injustice. So many times through life, recently for me, for instance, a few things may happen that are a few headaches, and as believers, we think, okay, wait a minute, what did I do wrong? I've had this cold for 2 weeks, and I've taken a whole thing of penicillin or whatever, and it still stays in my nose, and it starts driving me wild, and I know what was the problem. And as I let go of thinking so much about that particular problem, which is with my education, some problems happened with the committee, this and that, and I was so preoccupied with it, and I would cry about it, and I was just like, oh, my life is ruined now. And you think like, this is it. Just because this process in my life has been delayed for a period of time, which is unknown to me, my life is ruined. My future is ruined. I will not have any career of, be at the hospital doing what I'm doing. And this injustice, the lady drops out of my committee, just like that. And that was an injustice to me, And I was fearing that, I fell into it for a while, and my cold came on, and I was just like, boom, this is it. This is why this is happening to me. And 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, I feel like I've let go of it, and I feel like, okay, whatever happens, happens. I'm not going to worry about it. And here I'm trying to be a submitter again, and saying that I will not fear any injustice nor any affliction, and God willing, things will clear away from me. And for the believer, this is the chance that we have. This is the privilege, and we can. God's promise is always true, and He never fails us. So again, I can put my trust into this ayah here, and again, it will give me strength. Thank God. Ayah 14, among us are the submitters, and among us are the compromisers. As for those who submitted, they are on the right path. This is again a factual type of a thing. Staring at us here. You submit, and you're on the right path. Compromising will not get us anywhere. And as it says in Ayah 15, as for the compromisers, they will be used for Jahannam. A person, a lay person out in the street, if they come and read this book, it just informs you about the past, present of what you're supposed to do, and what's going to happen to your future. And thank God for me, it was very clear. And the more I read it, the more it gives me guidance and strength to follow Islam, to follow God. And it basically tells us, here's a jinn telling the story of, some of us are submitters, some of us are compromisers, but we know what's going to happen to them. They're going to be killed for Jahannam. Who wants to be? Water gives life. Water gives life. During the month of Ramadan, we were basically thirsty rather than hungry, and I noticed that. The water is again the source of life. We will be tested, definitely, and we know that throughout the chapters we are mentioned to us several times, testing and even little quizzes as one of the brothers mentioned. And if we disregard, and as for him who disregards the message of his Lord, He will direct him to ever-increasing retribution. And that is so clear. And who wants that retribution? If we have a bad day here, the headaches and this and that, we think it's horrible. And just to imagine that it's magnified so much for eternity, the retribution. I don't know, or a nightmare. You get up in the morning and you think about the nightmare that you had, and the problem that you felt in your nightmare. And just imagine that you would be living in that nightmare for eternity. That's just incredible to me. And I don't want to be there. And I don't know how people are so deaf and blind, knowingly, and this, you put them this in front of them and they don't believe in it. They think it's just a myth, or they can't think that far. Like Nama was telling about his friend. They can't think that far as to heaven and hell. And some Muslims call it, some people like in Iran, we know, they call themselves Muslim, but they say, oh, we don't believe in heaven or hell. So you don't know. Yeah. But you tell them this is the Quran, and they were raised with the Quran, but then again say, I don't know, I don't believe in that stuff. This is the life, this is it, this is the real thing. And they try to hold on to what they've got, but you go at the hospital, I see this every day. You see a doctor and a patient there who was a doctor, ill, and so what happened to all that dignity? What happened to all that money? Sometimes you don't see one single parent or family member there, one single friend. They're just laying there without any food. They can't eat. Tubes are just, all over the place. And what happens to the guy? It's not important. And I come home and I tell mom, your health is the most important thing. Being in Islam is so good, and what I tell my patients every day is thank God this, thank God that. If God wills, he'll get out. The patient will get out today, and this and that. And that, amazingly enough, that gives a lot of people a lot of strength, and sometimes I see tears coming down their eyes because all of a sudden they're reminded of God again. And that's the whole story. Just believe in God, and He will promise all these wonderful things, and you submit, and you're guided to the right path. And hey, everything's going to work out. Your health is going to be there. Your happiness is going to be there. You're going to have a wonderful family and children. Job. You're not going to have any headaches, you're not going to have any colds that will last for 2 or 3 weeks. And you don't have to take any penicillin twice a day. And this is a promise to us. And finally, Ayah 18, the places of worship belong to God. You shall not mention besides God any other name. This is very clear, extremely clear. As we mentioned with the Mohammedans, we know, I've never been to the mosque, and I don't want to claim that I have, what I've heard. The name of Muhammad is mentioned by God. And if they claim that they read this Quran and they know it so well, they should look at this ayah. And this is a sign for us. Sometimes when we encounter people who worship really Muhammad, we can just refer them to this ayah. The places of worship belong to God. You shall not mention besides God any other name. And thank God that this is what we say.
I'm going to come back and explain a little more about this. It's really very clear. The location of this surah is here, this mosque. I'm going to talk to you about that. But before this, I see Amir is falling asleep. So he's joining the sleeping corner there. I'm going to give him a quiz, because the subject I want to talk about 10 more minutes. Last time I didn't talk about it enough. Amir asked me a question. I knew it was coming. He said, what does it mean to keep your chastity? I knew it was coming. So when I answered him, I wonder if he remembers. So I have the quiz for you, Amir. What does keep your chastity mean? Listen, your dad doesn't know. I don't care. Your dad is old enough. I don't care if he knows or not. But I wonder if you know. Sometimes the older people don't know Amir. See, this is, Amir reminds me of the joke when this shows the generation gaps, how much more educated the new generations are. This father, his son reached coming close to the age of maturity, so he puts his shoulder on the shoulder of his son and says, "Son, I think it is time now to talk about the facts of life." The boy said, "Okay, Dad, what do you want to know?" So Amir is saying the same thing. Okay, Amir, what does keep your chastity mean? I thought so. Try to remember. You could give me any idea. You have any idea about it? This is why I want to talk about it for 10 more minutes. Okay, I'm going to repeat it and I'm going to ask you again next week, okay? So you better remember. Keep your chastity means you keep yourself for your wife. The person that when you're going to grow up someday and have a wife and children, right? And you want that person to be very special. So you want to keep yourself for your wife. You're not going to have any relationship with any other girl until you meet the girl that you're going to marry, that is your wife. This is what keep your chastity means. Because in this country, we live in a strange environment here.
As soon as the children hit 5, they start talking about boyfriends and girlfriends. Now, they can do this, but they will pay a lot. It's too expensive for them. Because when they do this, they're breaking God's law, and they have to pay for it when they grow up. They have a miserable life with their spouses. So this means the boy keeps himself until he doesn't go for all this dating business and boyfriend business and girlfriend business. You have to resist that temptation. You're going to be under a lot of temptation in the next years or so, even maybe now. Do you have girls who like you at school? No? Do you like any girls at school? See, this is what I mean. See, this is what I mean. You have to resist the temptation to reach for those girls and touch them. See, because you want to keep yourself with the one that will share your life forever. And if you do this, which is very difficult, it's not easy. You do this, God will guarantee you a perfect life. Now, our girls also will have to keep themselves until they have the man that will be their husband. See, I know Pupak is listening. Don't be embarrassed. We all grow up and we get married. But because we want you to be happy, you have to forget about the traditions of this country. They pay a high price for this. They fall for the temptation, the boyfriend and the girlfriend and all this business, and they think they're having fun, but then they pay dearly for it. When they grow up, we have to pay for all breaking God's law. Every time we break God's law, we have to pay for it. So if you want to be happy, and we want you to be happy, you must resist the temptations of this country. And you must have your own. God's law rules your life. Because, see verse 13 here says, no, not 13. Yes, 13. When we heard the guidance, we believe in it. Anyone who believes in his Lord will never fear any injustice nor any affliction. So if you want a life that doesn't have any fear, no affliction, no misery, you must be very strong. You must resist all temptation to fall for the things that happen around us here and in other places. When we heard the guidance, we believed in. This is the guidance from God, and He's telling us you must keep yourself with your spouse. If you're a boy, you must keep yourself. You don't touch another girl until the person that will be your wife forever. And if you're a girl, you keep yourself untouched until the person that will be your husband. Then you'll have a very happy life. You'll be proud of yourself. If you fall for the temptation, you're going to be ashamed of yourself for the rest of your life, that you didn't keep yourself with the one that married you. So this is what verse 13 means. And God wants you to learn this. Last time, remember the commandment, you must keep your chastity. That's what it means. It was verse 29 of the last surah. And now in verse 13, God is telling us, when we heard the guidance, we believed in it. And the guidance is, you don't follow the traditions of other than God's law. You're going to be in school, you're going to hear about boyfriends and girlfriends, and they will come and invite you, and they will want to touch you, and all these things. But you must tell them, I follow God's law, and I cannot go along with these traditions. I have my own traditions. And if you're strong, then you're guaranteed a perfectly happy life. And pass it on to all your Muslim friends. If you really care for them and you want them to be happy, this is what you pass on to them. Okay? These are the 10 minutes. I'm going to ask Amir next week, maybe ask the two of you. So you remember that. No. I don't want to scare you away. Don't worry. I know you'll never forget because you want to be happy. Okay, Surah 72 teaches us about the jinns. And it has to do with our mosque here because of the following reasons. You see, verse 4 tells us that these jinns were companions. I want to correct something that Afamir may have missed again. That remember, jinns are free companions of humans. Our companions are not called jinn yet. They will be when we die, and they are free, they become jinns. So the jinns that heard this Quran were passing by on 6th Street, and they decided to walk into Masjid Tucson, and they heard the Quran. And there are jinns who were companions of Christians, believing that God had a mother, Mary, and a son, Jesus, and so on, because verse 4 says, "It is the foolish among us who used to utter such nonsense about God." The nonsense is in verse 3. The Most High is our only Lord. He never had a mate nor a son. They are surprised. They walked in here, and they heard the Quran, and they heard about the mathematical coding, and they know it is the truth, and they believed, and they realize that this nonsense that God has a mate and a son is really nonsense. And only the foolish will believe that. So this surah has to do with us, and I was inspired that a group of jinns listened, then said, "We have heard the wonderful Quran." You can say here, say, "Oh Rashad," if you want to be accurate. I can't afford to be subtle about it anymore. The Quran did not exist during the Prophet Muhammad's time. Did you know that? Therefore, this does not apply to that time. The Prophet lived until he was 40 without any Quran, not one letter. And when he was 55, they had only about 1/3 of the Quran. The Quran was still being revealed until a few months, maybe weeks before he died. The Quran was not in the format that God intended for the world. It was written in the chronological sequence. This surah has the root name Rashada 4 times more than any other surah. And if you add the geometrical value of Rashad Khalifa to the number of verses, number of surah and number of verses, you have a multiple 19. Rashad is 505, Khalifa is 725, the number of surah is 72, and the number of verses is 28. So we have a lot of mathematical confirmation that this surah is about us, about this mosque here. That the jinns wandered in here, and they are here with us now, listening. They are very regular as far as the Quranic studies are concerned. I don't want to spook out anybody, but they love it. This is why you read that among us are the Muslims, and among us are the compromisers, verse 14. And Muslims means total submitters to what God says. There is no compromising. Yes. No, it was applicable, it was information about jinns, there was a lot of knowledge, but it will not apply to a place in Egypt, for example, or in Iran, or in Pakistan, because the jinns who are walking around there will not believe that God has a mate and a son, generally. The Quran is valid for all times, but there are certain things, for example, Rabbi Judah the Pious is mentioned in the 46th thing. Rabbi Judah was in the 11th century. The Quran came down in the 7th century. So there were 4 centuries before Rabbi Judah. There's a surah about the smoke, which hasn't happened yet, but it's still valid, and it is consistent with the punishments that came to the previous generations. Gog and Magog has not reappeared yet. The splitting of the moon happened only in 1969. So all these things are still valid, and there's a lot of information in all of them. But this surah is about Nasr Tusan. These are the jinns who wandered in here, they know the truth. The jinns who are lost and ignorant and just as Christian as any Christian, or Jewish as any Jew, or atheist as any atheist. This is a group of jinns who came in here and they believed. Yes.
The jinns who were not considered, are they considered?
No. They were converted afterwards. Yes. So the jinns do change afterwards. I was wondering about this for a while. Because the jinns are so strong with Satan initially, God gave him a longer period of time and more chance of seeing the universe. See, this whole creation is for the humans and the jinns to redeem themselves. We were kind of marginal, but the jinns stood firmly with Satan. So their opinion is stronger on the side of Satan, and God is giving them more of a chance. Because on the day of judgment, the humans and the jinns who go to hell will not have any excuse. The jinns will not say, if you gave us enough time, we would have abandoned our strong alliance with Satan. They cannot say that. No, this is a result of them reading the Quran. They knew, in other words, they reached the conclusion that is, yes, right. They knew as a result of reading the Quran, because the first verse says, a group of jinn listened and said, we have heard a wonderful Quran. Now when they heard the wonderful Quran, they learned a lot. Those were ignorant jinns walking around believing in Christianity, the Trinity. They were companions of Christians. And when they were freed, they had that belief in them. Then they found Masjid Tucson, they walked there and they discovered the Quran. They discovered there's a miracle on the wall, and they have more capabilities to understand the code easier than us. So these are converted jinns. I mean, it's really very clear. I was inspired that a group of jinns listened and said, we have heard the wonderful Quran. We are a generation that when we were born, the Quran was in existence. During the Prophet Muhammad's time, people were born and there was no Quran. It guides to righteousness and we have believed in it. So they changed. We will never set up any idols besides our Lord. Now notice the things that we say here in this mosque and they repeat. Like in verse 13. This is something we always say in this mosque and they believe it now. They are simply repeating what we say here. Anyone who believes in his Lord will never fear any injustice nor any affliction. They actually go back to their people and they say this. And they heard it here. Some of these verses also are to teach us some characteristics of the jinns. Some of us are righteous and some are less than righteous. Because they go and talk to their Christian jinns and they tell them, oh, this is nonsense. The Lord Jesus will save us. He died for our sins. Same things that you go through. And they do talk some of them into coming with them back here and say, come and listen. So some are guided and some are not. We used to listen to the sky, it tells us what kind of power they have also. It's a very confusing subject, so don't be... No, they're talking about their kind. You think they're bad humans? Are they bad human beings? No? No? Do you think they're bad human beings? Okay, so if you talk about the human race, you can say some of us are righteous and some are less than righteous. They're talking about the jinn race. Talk about the jinn beings, not talk about themselves. Okay, is that clear now? Now, 12. We knew full well that we can never run away from God. As a result of studying the Quran, they know now that they will be gathered on the day of judgment.
Only those that are talking.
Yes, the ones.
In Surah 11, they're making a general statement about all jinns.
Yes. Right. You can imagine yourself talking about the human race after reading the Quran. It's exactly the same. And you will find the same thing is applicable. What God is teaching us here is that the jinns are like us. Some of them are Muslims, some are atheists, some are Jewish, and so on. Beth. Those are future jinns. Those are future jinns. They are trapped in our body until we die. They are companions. They are companions. They are not part of your soul. Your soul is an independent person called Beth Khalifa. And the companion is an independent person called Beth Khalifa. That is freed also when you die, then the other Beth Khalifa becomes a jinn and stays around here about for 600 or 700 more years. In your case, 300 years.
So we don't know if there's two things that are part of us.
You mean after we die?
Yeah.
They're just floating around.
But I didn't know about
They're not part of us anymore. Now they are part of us. They go wherever you go. Beth, this is very important. You have the companion is your number, is the major witness for or against us on the day of judgment. Because this is the companion that's with you from birth to death, always, wherever you go. And she knows everything about you. So she makes a perfect witness. She's an eyewitness from inside out. I mean, what more perfect witness than that? And the Surah 50 explains that. Surah 50.
And we feel them and they watch us and we feel they touch or something like that. And sometimes can we
your guards will not allow them to do that. Now your companion is inside of you. You can feel the example I use is you're watching TV and the noon prayer comes. And it's your companion that's telling you when to wait until the news is over. Then you will miss the prayer. Of the evil, Satan, yes. 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 Exactly. You're right, yes. No. Okay. Right. You're continuously changing them. Hopefully. Or you're totally submitting to them. Your jinn is Satan's representative in your body. Satan's representative. So she is continuously telling you not to worship God alone, to worship Sharif and Magdi and Hijab and so on. So this is what she's doing, to stop you from the 5 prayers, to discourage you from fasting month of Ramadan, to tell you to follow the social system, have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, that they do in this country and so on. She's always telling you to do the bad things. Now you are supposed to represent God's point of view. Worship God alone, develop the soul, grow, do the 5 prayers, fast the month of Ramadan, follow the moral system that God dictates. And she's, so there is continuous debate in your head between you and your Satan representative. And when this body dies, then both souls are free. And we go to the world of souls, and the jinn stays around for a few hundred more years. So the word jinn implies they're free companions. Done? Yes, the number of humans and the number of jinns are equal, but not in the end. Not at this time. I mean, on Earth, there are jinns from the past generations. Roughly, yes, roughly equal. not necessarily. Yes, higher than some angels. Yes. The angels will be distributed in the heaven at all levels. Just like, see, when we go back, we really go back, rejoin God's kingdom in the way we were before the feud happened, before the great feud. But we can exceed where we were, depending on how much we develop our soul. See, we were in heaven, and we were in a different rank. I mean, in a particular specific rank, and then we committed that crime. So we fell here. Now our job is to redeem ourselves, and we can redeem ourselves to the same rank, or to higher or lower, depending on how hard we work, or how much we develop our soul. So when we go back, we're going to fit back into God's kingdom among the angels. We just go back to the same situation as before the feud. Only with a new rank, depending on what we do. Did I clarify this? So some of the angels will be lower than us if we develop ourselves sufficiently. If you develop yourself to the max, you can be with at the highest level, with the highest angels, archangels. Yes, it's possible to be in a different stage. But this will reflect the weakness of the human.
What is this in the first ayah? It says, I was inspired.
Messenger. See, the say is to the messenger. I was inspired that a group of jinns listen. Actually, I find that I said this before I made the connection between this surah and myself. I said this in the past. As long as 10 years ago, when we read this surah, I said that the jinns come in here and they listen to us and they make this conclusion.
This also during the time of Prophet Muhammad. Muhammad had been addressed say, I will be surprised, because the Prophet Muhammad is the first person that received these verses from God. But this now happens at the second time, and there are many prophecies here, but we cannot say that Prophet Muhammad is not being addressed.
Cannot say that he has either. Most probably he was not, because there was no Quran.
But Quran, now we do Quranic study. If we recite a part of Quran, we can say this is Quran. For verses of Quran, we can say Quran. They didn't hear all the Quran, but part of the Quran, we can say Quran. The summary of Quran, the chapter of Quran, or some verses of Quran.
Okay, no problem with that. Very possible. No, I didn't hear the whole question. I didn't hear the whole question. They don't know the future. They'll be at the same stage with the people around the Prophet. Same stage as the Prophet and the people around him. Yes. No. Right.
Yes, that speaks like that. Feel just floating around. At any point, they hear another body that's good.
This is demon possession. Some of them are mischievous.
Because we got invitation.
This is a rare thing, though. Did anybody here see a demon-possessed person? It's rare. Only if you went to saw the movie Exodus, which is greatly exaggerated, based on a true story. Okay, back to Apame. Only 10 minutes. Yeah? No, this is the places of worship is in the act of worship. When you do the prayer, or the fasting, or the hajj, it must be devoted to God alone. In the khutbah and in the Quranic study in the Quran and so on, the Quran itself says, mention in connection with the scripture, Abraham, Mary, Pharaoh. The Quran itself says that. So. No, I would, since it is places of worship, so if you read Surah 19, it tells you what could be mentioned in the book, or any connection with it, mentioned Mary or Jesus or Pharaoh and so on, and Abraham, names. So when you study the Quran or you're learning from history, you have to mention these names. Only because God said so. But when it comes to the act of worship, you must devote it to God completely. Yes?
You may mention there are differences between two mentions. For example, when you praise God, praising God, if you mention somebody else, is mentioning his worship. Allah avoid us this kind of mentioning. For example, in Azan, you praise God and you call to God and you add somebody's name, for example, Muhammad or Ali's name. And also you are calling for prayer. Prayer is a connection with God, a contact with God. And here, in this situation, when you mention other names, this is a position of worship.
Must be devoted to God alone.
Yes.
An act of worship. But here we're studying. Like now, for example, we're studying the Quran. The Quran tells you to mention these names to learn from the history. So mentioning them in this context is okay. I see your point. I want to make it as difficult as possible because no matter what understanding or interpretation you may reach, you'll be taking a chance if you mention anybody else's name in the acts of worship. Like we do the prayer in the desert sometimes, a lot. Driving when we go in the desert, we go to the picnic area, and does this mean in the picnic area we should not mention Sharif or Mekki? But the key words here are place of worship, or position of worship. Okay, so in in the specific practices of worship, like salat and fasting and zakat and hajj and sacrificing animals, whatever. This must be devoted to God alone. When you mention the name of God on an animal, it must be the name of God alone, no other name. And I want to go back to when you do the prayer at the picnic area. When you stand up for the prayer, you mention only the name of God in the prayer. As soon as you say Assalamu alaikum, say congratulations, Douglas. So you mention Douglas. But it's not part of the worship. So I want to make this very strict, but it goes without saying that when you're outside of the acts of worship, you can, the Quran itself says mention those names to learn from the history. Okay, but you see, Rami, you have a very good point here. But remember that the teacher of Quran is God, and for the sincere believers, God will see to it that they will reach the right conclusion, just like we are reaching it right now. I'm not. They don't need me. I'm not the one who is teaching the Quran. God is teaching all of us right now. Well, listen, if God guides them to mention no other name as the mosque under any circumstances, we may be able to build a mosque right here in this area where there is a prayer hall where no other name is mentioned there. And our Quranic study would be in a place where we have chairs and a movie screen or a big TV or something that would be for the Quranic study. And when we go to the prayer hall, no other name will be mentioned in that hall. If they do that, more power to them. That'll be wonderful. We may be able to do this someday. But this is where the word compromisers comes in the picture. See, it's only 4 verses before that. If the message reaches, now, remember that God is the teacher of the Quran to every generation. And for the sincere believers, God sees to it that they reach the correct conclusions. The insincere will always be sent astray, no matter how clear you can be. So, this is a law in verse 18 that we can never compromise in. Now remember, there is a law in the Quran that says if you are forced by circumstance, without being malicious or deliberate, you are committing no error. So right now our circumstances dictate on us that we use this same hall for prayer and for Quranic study and for potlucks and so on. But the day will come and we're rich enough, inshallah, we'll have a complex on this block where there is a prayer hall that nothing goes on in it except prayer and only the name of God. But yes. Yes. Yeah, but the khutbah follows the instructions of the Quran. وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ مَرْيَمَ وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِبْرَاهِيم, and use their history as lessons. This is Surah 28. We'll be following the Quran in the khutbah. Now the khutbah, the people are sitting listening. This is not part of the contact prayer. Yes. Yes, but that word has many meanings depending on the context. When you say the name of Muhammad in the Adhan, you are worshipping Muhammad. So you can use the mention or worship interchangeably in this situation. When you mention Muhammad, Ali Muhammad, Ibrahim, Ali Ibrahim in the contact prayer, you're worshipping them. So there is no difference. Do you have the Farsi translation there? I wanna go to the extreme and make it as difficult as possible to mention any other name under any circumstances in the mosque. But if they find it necessary, then this will fall under the Quranic law that if you are forced by circumstance without being deliberate or malicious, you're not permitted a mistake.
Word nad'u, yes, has many different meanings in Quran. Not so many different nuances. For example, chapter 361 فمن حاجك فيه من بعد ما جاءك من العلم فقل تعالوا ندعو آباءنا وأبناءكم. Yes, ندعو mention that call, not worship or invite. Allah says to Muhammad, say to them, let's invite ندعو آباءنا وأبناءكم. Allah commanding worship your children, not worship, to call. There are some different meanings here.
It's a word with a multiple meanings. I want a separate hall for the Quranic study and a separate hall for the prayer. So that ideally, we'd like to have. Right. What are you suggesting, Ronnie?
Well, the translation as it says in Arabic is very clear. We should not mention other than God.
Right.
But the place which is nothing to do, there's no practice by itself. This is not
Okay, I want to put you in the same position I was in. Go ahead and translate it. You see, the statement of the Quran is very